Oh my God, it's happening. It's really happening. Truckers are going to boycott New York City. They're going to refuse to deliver. Truckers are going to Bud Light the entire city of New York. I'm here for it. Truckers actually control this country. They're responsible for delivering 70 to 73% of all freight. Now, many people that live in large cities find that almost impossible to believe. When they go to the local store or the bodega, there are supplies on the shelf. They're just there. Cans of corn, potato chips, diapers, coffee, milk. It's just on the shelf. Store items. Now, those potato chips come from potatoes. Potatoes are grown in Idaho. The milk comes from Wisconsin or upstate New York or California. Corn comes from the Midwest. There are 0 crops that are grown in Manhattan. No apples, no lemons, no avocados for your toast. New York is worse than most because of the extreme dense population. That makes it almost impossible to have farmland. They need to import absolutely everything. And by import, I mean it needs to be delivered on a truck. But truckers control everything. Sometimes they forget how much power they have. Well, maybe not, but every now and then they get really pissed off. And they show the world who's really in charge. Truckers, as a group, are huge Trump supporters. They are the working class. Not Twitter. They're not the journalist class. When truckers have a long day of work, they go home tired. If they go home at all, they work hard. They have stressful jobs. They're problem solvers. They are not to be taken for granted. Recently, Trump was found guilty of some type of nonsense fraud. It's the type of case where Trump wasn't allowed to present evidence of innocence. He was summarily found guilty by the judge. The judge didn't hear any evidence. He just assumed he was guilty, and boom, the case was over. He was just guilty because the judge said so. Then, after being found guilty, he was fined almost $500 million for a crime that he didn't commit, because there never was a crime. There were no victims. There was no damage. Apparently, the truckers feel the same way, and they are pissed.
I've been on the radio talking to drivers for about the last hour 15 minutes. And I'm talking to at least 10 drivers going the other way. I'm heading down from south Wisconsin. And they're going to start refusing loads in New York City.
If you look on Twitter, you'll see a trending topic of boycott New York. This is getting serious. Truckers all over the country are refusing deliveries to New York City. Here's a Google search for the term boycott NYC. The basic, well, as I understand it, the truckers feel like New York is corrupt. And when they can punish a man through the legal system, when they don't have the same political opinions, basically, they're right. And they're worried, because if this can happen to a billionaire ex-president, it can happen to anyone, and it will. The legal system is starting to look like a punishment tool for the current regime. I mean, ask anyone from January 6th. It's corruption. It's just corruption. And you can't vote it out. And you can't hide from it. So the only solution is you have to starve it until it begs for mercy. Historically, that's the only thing that works. Well, it's the only thing that works and is nonviolent. Non-violence is the key. Now, the other side, they're extremely violent. I mean, remember when they burned down cities? Then they try to get you canceled and fired so you can't feed your family? And they hold up severed heads. Now, that's a straight-up threat, and everyone knows it. But a boycott is perfect. It's nonviolent. You just don't want to do a thing. A Zero Hedge has a nice infographic that explains what happens if the trucks stop making deliveries. After 24 hours, delivery of medical supplies will stop to local hospitals. That includes pediatricians, regular doctor offices, dentists, even veterinarians. Gas stations will start to run out of fuel. And all the manufacturing, the just-in-time deliveries will stop. So the manufacturing has to stop. And U.S. Mail. Now, most people don't know this. U.S. Mail is still run with a lot of help from independent truckers. Your bills will stop coming. But so will your Social Security checks. I mean, unless you have direct deposit. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to that later. After 2 or 3 days of no trucks, food shortages will escalate. Basic groceries will start disappearing from the shelves. Bottled water, baby food, baby formula, canned food, those are going to be the first to go. Now the storage in the back of the store will be empty, and there won't be any new deliveries to restock. Now, ATMs are also going to run out of cash. Then the inside of banks will run out of cash. Banks will close. See, they don't want to tell people that they can't get their money from the bank. So they just avoid the confrontation and close. Now garbage starts piling up. I mean, the local trucks can pick it up from the street, but they need to truck it out to Jersey or Staten Island or Ohio or even China. Yeah, we send our garbage out to China, but New York doesn't have any place in New York to store all this garbage. They send it out. Send it on what? Oh yeah, those local trucks. Yeah, they're also going to run out of fuel. So street pickups stop after a day or two. It's going to start getting real messy. And all of the containers that arrive at the seaports, the rice from India and China, the fruit from South America, the frozen shrimp from Vietnam, well, that's just going to sit because no trucks are coming to get it. After the first week, any gas or diesel vehicle stops because they're out of fuel, and the gas stations have run dry. Now, this includes ambulances and fire trucks. It also includes Ubers and Lyfts. So if you don't have a car, now you can't get out of the city. And hospitals are going to get any resources that are left. High priority. They're going to do everything they can to keep hospitals running. Now, the ER will stay open as long as possible. But they're running out of supplies too. They're running out of oxygen. They're running out of Band-Aids. They're running out of blood, medicine, even food. By the second week, drinking water is not available. Now, chemical water treatment plants need a literal ton of chemicals to recycle water and make it safe to drink. I mean, it's not just chlorine and fluoride. There's a lot of chemicals you need to make water safe to drink. And those chemicals come on trucks. And they're delivered every few days. Now they're not. So the city is now shut down. It can no longer function, and people are getting way past desperate. The violent will take what they need. And the people that have been disarmed, well, you're going to be at a real disadvantage. Now this chart, it's a good overview of what might happen. But in reality, it's going to be much worse. Remember when we ran out of toilet paper during the first few weeks of COVID? It was bad, but trucks were still running and everyone knew that another delivery would come soon enough and this will get sorted out. Well, this might be different. They're going to run this story on the news every 15 minutes. It's a great narrative to tell the world how awful MAGA supporters are and they're trying to kill babies and puppies. They're going to do everything they can to push a narrative that MAGA is trying to tear the country apart with their violent boycott. And the bad thing is that these residents of these large cities will eat this up. They believe the mainstream media, and they're going to be terrified. They're going to start hoarding almost immediately. They will panic, run to the store, and that, of course, makes the panic worse. Then they run to the ATM to withdraw as much as they can. And this also makes the problem worse. But don't forget about all those migrants you just imported. They won't understand why the shelves are empty. Okay, sure. Mayor Adams is still going to give them the $53 million in EBT cards that he promised. But they won't buy anything. There won't be anything left to buy. What do you think 1 million hungry migrants are going to do? Well, they're already pretty good at violence. You can see that on the street every day. If they can't rob stores for food, they're going to start going to houses. You better watch your back. Now, there is a spot of good news for the residents of New York City. There will always be scabs. Scabs are people that break the picket lines. Okay? There will be some truckers that will take supplies to New York City. But this is now higher risk. You're going to need to offer that driver a much higher wage to make that risky trip. let's just pretend the average trucker gets paid $5,000 for a cross-country trip of veggies from Cali to New York. If the truckers boycott, it might take $20,000 for a trucker to make that delivery. If you get supplies, if you can find a trucker who's willing to deliver to New York, you're going to have to pay him for his time. It might cost $20,000 to get that truck to deliver to New York City. You're going to have to bribe him. You're going to have to make him want to drive into a city that hates him. It's risky. Going to be expensive. All of your supplies are going to be more expensive if you can get them. Now, New York, you need to get it together. You can't keep using the legal system to punish your political opponents. It might work for a few weeks, but when people have finally had enough, you are going to hate the way they fight back. New York, you don't have any food. Have you thought this out? This isn't like the Canadian truck revolt of last year. Those trucks aren't going to New York City and parking. They're just refusing to go at all. You can't break this up like a rally or a protest. You can't send in the feds and send in the cops. And no matter of legal persuasion will force a trucker to drive to your city. You can't make them. I support these truckers, and I hope this is what it takes to finally rein in this corruption. The Mayor Adams, the DA Bragg, Letitia James, that psycho deranged lunatic. It's a shame the good people of New York are going to have to suffer. But they voted for this. Good luck. I support these truckers. I hope this lasts as long as it needs to fix the problem. That's all I have to say about that.